He was not born a king, but he died as one. He rose through politics, through war, through ambition, and in the end, he was betrayed by the very men he trusted. His name was Julius Caesar, and his story changed Rome forever. The year is 100 BC Rome, a republic, not an empire. Power was not held by one man, but by many. The Senate ruled, and behind every decision, there were alliances, rivalries, and ambition. Caesar was born into a noble family, but not a powerful one. He had status, but not control. And in Rome, status without power meant nothing. From a young age, he understood something most did not. Rome was not ruled by law, it was ruled by influence. So he built it step by step. Allies, connections, support. But Rome was dangerous. Political enemies were not just opponents, they were threats. At one point, Caesar was forced to flee, hunted, marked for death, but he survived, and when he returned, he was different, more calculated, more determined. He was no longer trying to survive Rome, he was preparing to control it. Years passed. Caesar rose through the political ranks, gaining popularity with the people, but popularity was not enough. He needed power, real power, so he formed an alliance with two of the most powerful men in Rome, Pompey the Great and Marcus Licinius Crassus. Together, they formed what history would call the First Triumvirate. 3 men controlling Rome. For a time, it worked, but alliances built on ambition never last. Crassus died, and the balance was broken. Now only 2 remained, Caesar and Pompey, and Rome was too small for both. Caesar needed something to secure his power, so he turned to war. Gaul, modern-day France. For nearly a decade, he fought, campaign after campaign, victory after victory. He expanded Rome's territory, but more importantly, he built something else, an army, a loyal army, men who followed him, not Rome, and that changed everything. Back in Rome, the Senate grew nervous, Pompey grew nervous. Caesar was becoming too powerful, too popular, too dangerous. So they gave him an order, return to Rome, but without his army. It was a trap. If he returned alone, he would lose everything. If he refused, he would become an enemy of the state. There was no safe choice, only one decision: cross the line or lose everything. In 49 BC, Caesar made his move. He marched toward Rome and reached a small river, the Rubicon. Crossing it was illegal. It meant war against Rome itself. He paused. For a moment, everything hung in the balance. Then he crossed, and in that moment, there was no turning back. Civil war began. Pompey fled, the Senate fled, Rome fell into chaos, but Caesar moved fast, relentless. He chased Pompey across the empire, battle after battle, until finally, victory. Pompey was defeated, and Caesar stood alone, the most powerful man in Rome. He returned, not as a politician, but as a ruler. He was named dictator, not for a year, not for 10 years, but for life. And that terrified Rome, because Rome had always feared one thing: a king, and Caesar was becoming one. He made reforms, changed laws, restructured the system. To some, he was saving Rome. To others, he was destroying it. And among those who feared him were men he trusted, men who had stood beside him, including Marcus Junius Brutus, a friend, an ally, or so Caesar believed. A plan was formed, not by one man, but by many: senators, leaders, conspirators. Their goal: end Caesar before he became unstoppable. The date was set, March 15th, the Ides of March. Caesar was warned, told not to go, but he went anyway, confident, unstoppable, or so he thought. He entered the Senate, surrounded. At first, nothing seemed wrong. Then, one man stepped forward, then another, and another. Knives were drawn, blades flashed. Caesar was attacked, stabbed again, and again, and again. He tried to resist, but then he saw him, Brutus, the man he trusted, among the attackers. And in that moment, everything changed. He stopped fighting and fell. Julius Caesar was dead, killed not by enemies, but by allies, betrayed. At the height of his power, the conspirators believed they had saved the Republic. They believed Rome would return to balance. They were wrong. Chaos followed, war followed, and in the end, the Republic fell anyway. From its ashes rose an empire, ruled by one man, Caesar's heir, Augustus. The very future Caesar's enemies tried to prevent became inevitable. And so, Julius Caesar, the man who rose from nothing, who conquered armies, who controlled Rome, was remembered not just for how he lived, but for how he died. At the center of power, surrounded by betrayal. If you want more stories like this, no myths, no filler, just the truth, subscribe. More is coming.